Hello, my name is Eli, and I run the website English Pro Tips, which is a website designed to help people with the IELTS test. And instead of explaining what the website is, I'm going to show you what the website is. So this is how my website looks. It's englishprotips.com. And I worked in IELTS for many years as a language assessment consultant. And if you have been a language assessment consultant, you know what that means. It's a bit of a code word. And as a language assessment consultant, I found that students were making the same mistakes over and over again in the IELTS test. And this was things that were stopping them from getting the desired score. So around 3 years ago, I started to write down all of my ideas for what would help students to get to a better level in their IELTS test. And I started making different courses. So you can see the courses here. And my intention was for the website to have a free version and then a paid version. And so that's what I did. I first made the Academic Task 1 course. And if you're interested in doing the academic IELTS, then you can go to my website, englishprotips.com, and then just go to Start Course. And straight away, you're able to start learning about the IELTS test. Now, I wanted it to be a very interactive course. So there's going to be videos, there's PDFs, and I also wanted lots of interactive opportunities like this just to find out about the IELTS test. So there's a lot of quizzes. For example, I think maybe we could do this one together. So do you guys know, what do you have to write about in task 1? So this is academic task 1, not general task 1. So is it an essay, a letter, a story, or a report based on a graphic?
It may be a report.
Yes. Okay. So you were shown a graphic and asked to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. And then I'll go on to explain a little bit about the kind of graphs that we've got. Now, how long should you spend on task 1? So bearing in mind we've got, well, actually, I'm not going to say anything. How long do you think we should spend on task 1?
It's so difficult for people here in
Mm-hmm.
the Zoom meeting because they should know all about IELTS and the difference between academic and general IELTS. So you can give some brief about IELTS general and academic first.
Sure. Okay. Well, academic IELTS um, and the general IELTS are different, particularly in the writing part and the reading part as well. So actually, the listening and the speaking test is the same. And within the four parts of the IELTS test, it's the writing part that's the most different. And what is the main difference is in task 1 of the academic IELTS, you're given a graphic like this, and you need to write a report on this. Now, if we look at the general IELTS, so for example, if you go to my general task 1 course and we have a look at the introduction for general task 1, you'll see that we're no longer writing a report based on a graphic. We're actually going to be writing a letter. So let's see if
At
I
English
can
Pro Tips, we have a writing evaluation
put
service.
this down, and I'll show you an example of a letter here. So it would be something like this. You live in a room or college. Let me see if I can share that. Which you share with another student. However, there are many problems with this arrangement, and you need to basically write a letter to somebody. So that's the main difference between academic IELTS in the writing and the general test. So in the general test, you write a letter. In the academic IELTS, you write a report based on a graphic. Now, in task 2 of the writing, you need to write an essay. And they are slightly different essays for the general and academic IELTS test, but the difference isn't huge. So, for example, in the general IELTS test, you might get a question like, what are the advantages and disadvantages of living in a hot country? This is seen as general topic. Whereas in the academic IELTS test, you might get a slightly more formal academic style question. Something like, what are the advantages and disadvantages of governments prioritizing economic growth over environmental protection? So you can see that for a lot of people, the academic task two topics might be a little bit more difficult. And in fact, the statistics show that people do better in the general IELTS compared to the academic IELTS. So if you have a choice, then I would recommend personally that you do the general IELTS. However, most people can't choose. If they're moving to a foreign country, they usually need to do the general IELTS. If they're moving to a foreign country to study, then they're going to have to most likely do the academic IELTS. So the first thing for you when you're told that you need to do IELTS is to find out, do I do general IELTS or academic IELTS? Now, the thing about my website is that it's going to prepare you for all parts of the IELTS. So whether you're doing the academic IELTS or the general IELTS, that's all fine. And in fact, we've got students that do both the academic and general IELTS, and you can see that a lot of them score incredibly well and go on to work in the NHS in the UK or study abroad in Canada. All sorts of reasons for doing the IELTS test, and also from all sorts of countries as well. I know you guys are based in Egypt, and I've had a lot of Egyptian students as well over the years. So if you are interested in starting these courses, you can go to englishprotips.com and you can sign up for free. And after you do that, you're taken to your dashboard and you're going to be able to start all the courses. You can't do all of the lessons from all the courses unless you upgrade, but you're going to have these courses that you can start. You have also some IELTS questions that help you in the speaking test. So, for example, a very common topic is where you live. So you'd be able to hear some model answers, download a PDF, and then also you can do these gap fill questions in order to become more familiar and learn a lot of useful vocabulary. And again, there's always going to be useful vocabulary below the lessons to help you, and you can always copy and paste the transcript and study that at home. So there's a lot of help for all parts of this test, but in my experience and also statistically, it's the writing test that most people find difficult. So
yeah, that's true.
So to help people with the writing test, I've made, 4 courses. I've got the academic task 1 course. You can see it's got 25 lessons, a general task 1 course, a task 2 writing course, which is a very comprehensive course that tells you all about IELTS writing task 2, and then also a mini course just to kind of give you an introduction into IELTS writing. And then on top of that, I've got these model essays, and I think they're going to really help a lot of people. So what you would find is you have an IELTS style question. So this is very typical of the IELTS task 2. And you've got a model essay, and instead of just reading the model essay, what I encourage you to do is to do the gap fill. And by doing these gap fills, you're going to learn a lot more vocabulary. So little things like this can bring about significant change. And by doing these gap fill activities, you're also learning useful vocabulary that you can use in your IELTS essays. And then there's going to be examiner comments. So you can learn how the examiner is assessing your essays. You're going to get the useful vocabulary. This is vocabulary you can put into your own essays. And then this one even has an extra quiz as well. So you can put words into the correct place inside these quizzes. And so if you like these, then you can always just click below and then you go to the next essay. And what I've found is students are able to really improve as a result of reading these model essays and then even looking at these model essays and then writing their own model essays based on this. So based on the one last thing I'd like to show you actually before we move on to the general part of the lesson is the PDFs. Now I know that loads of students like to study from PDFs. So I've got a collection of the most popular PDFs to download, which includes an essay checklist and model essays. Then we've got all of these writing PDFs, and you can see there's absolutely loads. So there's lots to keep you going. There's also lots of speaking PDFs, like model answers that you can use, and vocabulary PDFs where you can learn advanced vocabulary before your speaking test or writing test on all of the common topics. So that's my website, englishprotips.com. Again, you can start for free. If you want full access, then you do have to become a premium member. But it's able to help a lot of people get their desired score in IELTS, which I'm absolutely thrilled about. It's so exciting for me to see so many students getting their desired score. So if you go to the success stories and reviews, you'll be able to listen to some students that scored their desired IELTS score, and you can scroll down and you'll just see lots and lots of students that have gone through the courses of English Pro Tips and got their desired IELTS score. Let's see if we've got anyone from Egypt here. So we had someone called Maria from Egypt, who was able to get 8.5 in listening, 8.5 in reading, 7 in writing, and 8 in speaking. So that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And then we've got.
So I'm sorry for cutting you off, Eli. So we need to go generalize and to take some questions from the audience here.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yep,
you can tell us about IELTS for the test, and you can go specifically or particularly into every module or something like that.
Okay. So your question is, can I tell you about every module?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to actually just share my screen again because it's quite a big question and there's quite a lot to cover. So again, if we go to englishprotips.com, then there's basically 4 modules. There's the writing. So we've got these courses here. There's a listening module, this one here, a reading module, and I cover it in this course here, and then a speaking module, and I cover it in this course here. Now, depending on where you're doing the test, all of these modules might be tested on the same day. So you might have reading, listening, writing, and then speaking, or even speaking at the beginning. And sometimes you have reading, listening, and writing on the same day, and then speaking is either 7 days before or 7 days after. Each test has a different amount of time, but it's usually around an hour. So for example, in the reading module, you've got 1 hour, you've got 3 passages, and you've got 40 questions. In the speaking test, it takes between 11 and 14 minutes, and there's 3 parts of the test. You've got part 1, where you're asked questions about yourself, part 2, where you have to speak for 2 minutes on a topic, and then part 3, where you have a discussion with the examiner and they ask you more abstract, difficult questions related to the same theme as your part 2 topic. The listening test takes around 40 minutes. And one thing that's interesting about the IELTS listening test is you're given only one opportunity to write down your answers. So you need to be very good at multitasking. You need to be reading the questions and listening to the tape script at the same time. And then we've got the writing test. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got 2 tasks. So if you're doing the general IELTS, then you've got a letter and an essay. And if you're doing the academic IELTS, you've got a report and a letter. And a report and an essay. And you will have 1 hour in total to do that. So that's the 4 modules of the IELTS test. Any more questions?
Okay, so Minna, you can introduce yourself and try to ask your question.
Okay. I'm Minna Ahmed. I'm 18 years old. I'm in Faculty of Education Department English. more or it's okay?
Okay, you can ask your question about IELTS. What do you need to ask about IELTS?
Wait. It is useful to study IELTS alone, or do I have to study with a specialized person?
Okay, that's a very good question. So it partly depends on your learning style and what you prefer. Some people like to do lots of practice tests. So if they go to the Cambridge,
The share screen is error with me.
I think I'm sharing my screen. So some people like to use these books to practice alone, and they give you practice tests. So you can do lots of listening tests, reading tests, writing tests. However, when it comes to the speaking test, you can't practice speaking with a book. So that can be very problematic. So one thing that I think will help people is I've made a group called English Pro Tips IELTS group. And in this group, there's actually a post. Let's see if I can find it, where you
LA, there is no screen on the phone.
let me see.
The sharing screen isn't working.
Okay. Sorry, my mistake. How do I let me share that
okay.
again then. Okay, so I wanted to first show you some of the Cambridge books. Can you see that now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So if you study alone, then these books are absolutely great because you can do lots of practice tests. And I was saying that it's very good for the reading, listening, and writing test, because you can just do lots of practice tests. However, particularly for the speaking test, it's good to have a partner that you can study with. And so in my group, in the English Pro Tips Facebook group, so you can search for that in Facebook, you can find this post here. And this is basically to help you find a speaking buddy. So you can put in this information. For example, my name is Eli. I'm from London. My previous IELTS speaking score was band 9. I'm aiming for band 9 again. In my free time, I like to go rock climbing and listen to music. And so you can see that we've got about 200 people in this. And all of these people are looking to find a speaking partner. And they're from all over the world. They're from Asia, they're from Europe, they're from Africa. And you can go in, you can read their description, and maybe you can find someone who is also band 6, but aiming for band 6.5, or also interested in movies, or also interested in playing chess. And then these are the kind of people that you can do your practice speaking tests with. As for the writing, yes, you can study that alone. However, I recommend that you have your essays checked. Now, there's two ways to do this. You can get another student to check your essays, or rather three ways. You can have another student check your essays, but they don't really know so much about IELTS, so that can cause a couple of problems. You can also use AI to check your essays. So you can use things like ChatGPT and write in your essay and then say, please correct my score. And you can also use websites like Grammarly, where you can write in your essays here, and then you can see all the punctuation and spelling mistakes that you make. And now the problem with AI and free punctuation checkers is they don't really understand IELTS. So in order to get your essays assessed by ex-examiners or by teachers with a lot of experience, I really recommend these guys. So they're called IELTStutors.org, and then you can go to writing marking and then see prices, and you can send them a task for £7, which is roughly $10, just under, as far as I know. And I think that's a really good idea if you're studying by yourself. And my website also has writing evaluation as well, which is also a very high standard. However, what I would say is that it's more expensive, unfortunately, than IELTStutors.org. So I highly recommend
Yeah.
tutors.org. If you're interested in doing all of your studying with English Pro Tips, then you can also go with me and my team for your writing evaluation. And if you're someone that likes to study from video lessons, then I highly recommend doing courses like my IELTS Task 2 course, which you can start here. You click Start Course, you're immediately taken to a
Hey there,
video
welcome back.
that
Today's
tells
lesson
you,
we're going to
oops,
be looking at.
that tells you all about writing Task 2 and then shows you what it is in the test and then gives you lots of quizzes so that you can learn more about IELTS writing that way. Okay, I hope that
So
answers.
for
Okay,
yeah, the answer is perfect. So for me, I checked your website. It's so marvelous and it going exactly that prepared well for everything we need about IELTS.
So that's really my plan is and like I think it's great when people focus on say just the writing or just the speaking or just the listening, just the reading. My grand ambition is to be able to help people with all parts of the IELTS and to provide that at very low cost.
Okay, for you, Yasmin.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Yasmin, a junior student of English language. I have signed up in your platform, ELI, and it's really amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I have some questions for you about IELTS exam.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Yes, certainly. That's why we're here.
How long would I take to prepare myself for IELTS exam, in your opinion?
Well, so that depends on a number of factors. It depends on what level of English you have to begin with, and it also
Yeah,
depends on what score you're aiming for. So,
me too.
so you're B2,
Yes.
okay, and what score are you aiming for?
Proficiency, maybe.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
she didn't know about bands. You can illustrate it for her.
sure, yeah.
You are sharing screen right now. Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Yep.
But
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
deliberate. Let me see if I can click resume share.
Okay.
Oh, let me try again. So,
Yep. It's working
okay.
right now.
Great. So I want to show you this. If this is a level, let's see if I can find it. Here we go. So this shows you if you're B2 now, that means that you're between 5.5 and 6.5. So B2 is seen as anywhere from 5.5 to 6.5. If you want to be a proficient user, then you need to have 7 to 9, which is C1 and C2. So if you're, for example, the low end of B2, then this might take actually a few years to go from 5.5 to 7. If you're at the high end of B2, so say you're at getting 6.5, then this might only take you a month or 2 months. However, it sometimes depends on what you need to get better at. If you've already got a very good level of English, but you don't know much about the exam, then it's very easy to learn about the exam and then to get a higher score. But if you already know a lot about the exam, but you're still getting, say, band 5.5 because of having a low level of English, then it will take you a lot longer to get to where you want to be.
Okay.
Do you have another question?
No, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. For you, Minna, do you have another question?
Okay. Can I ask?
Yep.
Okay. For me, as a teacher, what is better for me teaching courses or language courses like IELTS?
Oh,
You
okay,
mean learning?
interesting. So as a teacher, what is better to teach Language
or
courses like
first?
general English or IELTS courses, is that the question?
What? Can you ask again?
Yeah. So is your question which is better for a language teacher to teach general English or to teach IELTS? Is that your question?
No, I asked it for it is better for me as a teacher. First, teaching courses or language courses like IELTS, teaching courses like CELTA, TEFL. You understand me?
I
So
think
I
so.
get it. I get it, Elay. She's asked about what the first thing she should do for
Mhm.
preparing himself or herself about how to start or to call out about teaching. Firstly, she should prepare herself about the general English as a language,
Mhm.
then go to the teaching knowledge like CELTA, TEFL, TESOL. You can
Okay.
you can answer it.
Yeah. Is that the question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, personally, what I would recommend is first of all, you need to make sure that you're at a very high level of the language that you want to teach. So, if you want to be teaching English, to foreign students, it's probably important for you to be getting band 8 in all parts of the IELTS test, apart from the writing. And, ideally, you're getting 7.5 in the writing. Um, so, first of all, you need to make sure that you can get to a very high standard in the IELTS test. The next thing after that is a good idea is to find out where the teaching is for you. So, I'd recommend having small classes, teaching people one to one, and just seeing if it's a profession and that you like and that you feel good at and that makes you feel good. After that, I would definitely recommend that you do a CELTA. So that's a language teaching certificate. And when you do a CELTA, you're going to get a lot of practice teaching small groups, teaching large groups, and teaching mixed ability groups as well. So beginner level English and also advanced level English. After you've taught general English for 2 years, at least 2 years, after that, I would recommend that you start teaching exam preparation courses. And the reason is you need to give yourself a lot of time before you teach exam preparation courses to really understand why something is correct or why something is incorrect. For example, if you're asked a grammar question, students that are studying for an exam really need to have confidence in their teacher that you can say, why do we use the past simple here? Or why do we use the past perfect here? So the order is, first of all, get a very high level of English, band 8 or and above. Um, Second thing is practice teaching in small groups, maybe informally. Maybe you join an online tutor website like italki or Cambly. Thirdly, do a CELTA course, which is quite expensive. When I did mine, which was in 2014, it was around £1,500. So my guess is it's probably around £2,000 now, maybe a lot more. So that's a lot of money to invest in it. But if you know you want to be a teacher, it's worthwhile doing that. After that, teach general English for at least 2 years, and that's going to teach you lots of different levels. And then after doing 2 years of full-time teaching general English, start to focus on exam preparation and things like the first certificate, the other Cambridge exams, and IELTS as well.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, there is a triple in one question.
Okay.
Okay, so for we say in building up English from B2.1 to go higher, what the material they should use? This firstly, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you can answer it, then
Okay.
we go forward.
Okay. So if you're at B2 level, then you're already at a very good level. You're kind of upper intermediate, in which case you can interact with a lot of English speaking people, and you can interact with English content. So I would recommend watching a lot of series and films on platforms like Netflix and Hulu, I think it's called. And I'd recommend speaking to a lot of people. So you can use my Facebook group to meet people from all over the world. You can also use apps like Hello Talk to find language partners. But the idea is at the upper intermediate level, it's great that you use English regularly. You're also at a good level to move to a foreign country. And as soon as you do move to that foreign country, make a point of speaking English as much as possible. Because you're already at a good enough level to start relationships in that language. So starting new friendships in that language, for example. Okay.
Okay, for the second question, the most crucial issue for students of IELTS, they are going to talk about the confidence of speaking and how they evaluate the speaking test. And for the accent, I didn't have the accent that helped me to go on.
Okay. So one thing that I think helps is to watch speaking tests online on YouTube and to compare yourself to those people. So if I just share my screen for a second, what you can always do is if you go to on my website, my dashboard, you can go to speaking tests and you can see what a band 9 speaking test looks like. You can see what a band 8.5 speaking test, what a band 8 speaking test, and see what, for example, band 7 speaking tests look like. So you can watch those speaking tests and then you can compare yourself to those students. As for accent, yes, your accent does matter. You're tested on 4 criteria: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, which is vocabulary, grammatical range and accuracy, which is your grammar, and then finally you're tested on your pronunciation. So you need to make sure that you can make all of the sounds in the English phonetic alphabet, and that you can use connected speech, and that you vary the intonation and rhythm of your voice to make yourself understandable.
So let's make it clear. There is a difference between the better English pronunciation and the accent, because accent is something that you can obtain from the people you live, surroundings, and try to communicate with the natives to try to get the nasalization and the tones of them to practice or imitate them in speaking. But for you as ESL student or speaking, it doesn't work. You should stay at least for 6 months to try to obtain your accent. Is it correct or not?
Well, I mean, some people have developed, say, American accents or English accents from watching television shows, which is interesting. So I think ideally you go to live in a country and then you can absorb the accent that way. But you can also make a conscious effort to learn the accent of, English accent or American accent, Australian accent from watching a lot of series and practicing at home in the mirror.
But it does work as a better English pronunciation in the speaking test.
Yeah, if you focus on improving your accent, your pronunciation will also improve.
Okay, that's correct. So for the last question, the most crucial thing about writing the diagram question.
Mm-hmm. So okay, I would probably, yeah. So
you can show it.
Yeah, okay, I'll show you it. So if we go here, so what I would say is very important when you're answering, I'll show you what a diagram question looks like. If we go to the second answer, we've got types of graphics and what to include in your answer. So say if we get, or let me actually focus here on a process diagram. So there's certain things that we need to do when we answer a process diagram or any other diagram. And the first thing is we need an introduction, so we can see that here. And this can just be very short. For example, this is just 1 sentence long. Now, what's incredibly important is this. This is your overview. and this describes the general trend of the graphic. So in the course, you'll learn how to write overviews for different graphic types. The next thing that's very important is that in your body paragraph, or in your body of your report, you have at least 2 body paragraphs. So you need to think about the graphic that you're writing about, and you're thinking about how you can organize your text so that you can answer the question best. Okay, I've seen that we've only got 1 minute left before the end of the before the end of this Zoom meeting. So it might be time to wrap up. But thank you very much for having me.
Okay, that's awesome for me. But finally, we need you to make about monthly a free webinar about to make people in Egypt to make it free per 3 months. You can make one free webinar and to make a speaking quizzes like that.
Right. So there's lots of free quizzes. I can't do a monthly free webinar. I've got to run my business. So
Yeah,
I can't do
I
that
know
for
it's
people
so
in
hard.
Egypt. Yes,
I know.
so I can't do that. But yes, join my courses. You can start them for free, and you don't need me to appear live to answer your questions, because you're going to get all of the information from those courses, and you're going to find quizzes as well, like you mentioned, in my website. So that's going to help.
Okay, it was nice to meeting you, ELI, and have fun, and thank you for this meeting.
Thank you very much. Bye then.
Thanks, bro. Bye.